In this video, I would like to make a wheel comparing xDesign with SolidWorks. So let's get started. I'm going to make a new component and we'll simply call it, I guess, wheel. This actually was a design that I'm copying from something I originally made in a Libre design. But I want to use this design to compare xDesign with SolidWorks, and then I'll circle back and implement how a Libre does at some future point. So let's give this a diameter of 6 inches, right? This will be our mounting plate, and I'll extrude that half an inch. Oh, and I'm in millimeters, darn it. So let's go with inches instead, and I'll have to update my unit. Alright, that should be a diameter of 6 inches now, now that we've scaled it, and I'm glad I caught that early. Now we'll do half an inch. Alright, so this back face that we can't see will be the part that we mount to the hub. That's where your offset calculations are done. Let's sketch on this face here, and I'll give this a dimension of, say, 3 inches. And we'll give that a extrude to 1.25, right? Inch and a quarter. So let's go with this face here and sketch. And this time, let's make something that has 4 sides. Looks like we're pretty nicely coincident onto our mounting plate there. And highlight this and give it a horizontal relation. I want 0.980 here. So about 0.2 inches short of that top cap there. And let's go with half an inch vertically here. Except, you know what? I did this a little bit backwards from how I was planning, so we can always get rid of this horizontal, and I want to make this vertical. And now if I get rid of this and re-add it, it will be driving. So 0.5, and I want to give this a width of 1.5 right here. And then relative to the origin, let's go with 0.25. And I meant to say 0.15. And I read that wrong again. 1.15. There we go. Okay. Now let's extrude. Alright, so we're going to extrude this. And this is 6 inches, which means we're 3 inches away at its furthest point. So let's make this 3.05, right? 3 inches and 50 thou. And it looks like I have way too many profiles selected here, so I just want this sketch. Okay, I guess it recognized those 4 lines. And there we go, right. Now, I want to make a reference plane, and xDesign really is good at making reference geometry. They've got some cool concepts on doing this. So, on this plane, let's go with 10 inches away. That seems about right, and I'll accept that. So I got this plane 10 inches away for, let's make this a 19-inch wheel, kind of fancy. We're going to sketch here. Alright, so I'm in my sketch, and I'm going to make another profile very similar to the last. Except I don't think that was vertical, and I want it to be, so that's vertical now. Let's give that an angle, actually. I don't want to make that. Okay, let's give that an angle of 60 degrees. All right, and I want from here to here to be 2.5 inches. From the mounting plate to this line. Oh, come on. From the mounting plate to there should be 3 inches. So maybe I can add a relation can choose these two edges and say equal. And then it's just a question of how far offset do we want to be. Let's give this relative to the origin, something like okay, what happened there? Let's give this something like 2 inches, right? Okay. Let's close that. And now I can do a loft. And maybe this is where I want to catch up with SolidWorks for, because I have some discussion on this loft here. Let's go to SolidWorks. And on the top plane, we'll create a sketch. I'm going to go with, as before, a 6-inch circle. I can extrude that to a depth of 0.5 inches, except, what do you know, I'm in millimeters again. Let's make sure that we update that to inches as before. And that's the other thing that I've pointed out in past videos. When I change my unit, SolidWorks kind of kicks me out, so that's a nice thing about xDesign. Let's exit the sketch. We're going to say extrude 0.5, right, half an inch, and then I can choose this face again and create a sketch. We'll go with a dimension of 1. Oh, it's 3 inches. I remember. Okay, 3 inches. Features, extrude 1.25 inches, and then let's go to the front plane, create a sketch. Here to here, here and here. We'll go with a 1/4 inch. I think I have to put a point there, right? 1/4 inch. And let's go with 0.98. And we want a height here of, say, 0.5. 1.150. 1.150. And then we can extrude maybe 3.05 inches. And there we have it, right? So then I can create a plane. Let's go with the front plane and we'll offset it 10 inches. Create a sketch. And let's make a very similar shape. I'm going to go with vertical here, and then I can dimension this. Let's go 3 inches above the mounting plate here. Here and here for 3 inches. Let's go with 2.5 inches here. I can set an equal relation between these two edges as before. Let's add in a 60-degree angle. And then I believe that our only uncertainty is how far we want to be off of here. So let's go from the origin to here a distance of 2 inches, right? So if we do this in SolidWorks, let's do a loft to create a spoke to our wheel. I guess first I have to sketch on this face. Let's convert entities and exit sketch, right? That gives us something to sketch from, and you might even be able to just prefer to loft from edges, and that's good too. Let's go from here to here, features, loft, and I can specify quite easily normal to profile. There, right. There's a nice normal to profile, lofted wheel, looks good, and I can even actually change this. If I go to a factor of 7, right, that's pretty dramatic. It's going a big U-turn there. So if I make that something like 2, right, I can adjust my factor of being normal, and I think 2 looks pretty good in this case. And there I have a spoke. That actually gets kind of dramatic. I think I'm going to leave that to a factor of 1. It's nice when you can turn your view to make sure that it looks the way that you're expecting. Okay, so there we have it. And notice I have merge entities checked. So where is it? There it is. Merge everything, merge results. So we know that this is one solid, even though that we have a tangent line there. So that looks good to me. Let's see how this fares in xDesign. Right? When I get back into xDesign, I'll do the same thing. Right? Create a sketch on this face, convert entities, works all the same. Let me make sure here. There we go. And now when I go to Loft this, features, whoops, that's extrude. Let's go features and Loft. I'll choose sketch 4 and sketch 5. And coupling, right, no normal to profile, no normal to profile, no normal to profile. So it becomes a little bit more difficult. Maybe if I add in a spline curve and stick it right there. Still nothing. So you are allowed to use one spline curve. And interestingly, the spline curve does not have to intersect with anything. Like both, I should say, it doesn't have to intersect with the face that you're lofting to. So I can make that a spline curve. So if I say, in fact, just for simplicity to make sure that I don't mess this up, right, we're just going to go right there. And let's go with features, Loft, sketch 5 to sketch 4. Let's add a spline curve here. No. Will it work as a guide curve? No. And this is kind of what I've been wrestling with, because we don't have normal to profile here. Nothing that I see would be relevant for that. So we kind of have a failing ability to make this nice and curvy. In other lofts this isn't a problem, but in this loft it's kind of a problem. And I've checked the documentation, I've read through all that. It just seems like this is a weak spot in lofting. In spline curves, you're only allowed to have one section anyway. And I've tried doing the Creo-esque, make a surface and then cut the surface and use that as a path, right? Because that's kind of a stand-in for a 3D sketch. That doesn't work here either. I could not get that to work. So I don't want to make this all about lofting problems. That's probably nicely in a whole nother video in and of itself. But I'm just going to have to make this loft and accept that either I don't have the knowledge to do this or that there's a limitation in the software. And let's be frank, it's not very obvious if there's a way to do this, right? The interface should be more simple if there's a way to do what I'm trying to do, what I just did in SolidWorks that took me a few seconds or a minute. But I can, try to merge these as, something like a fillet, just to smooth things out a little bit. So if I try to do like a 1-inch radius, and I can select a few faces around here, that looks kind of funky. Yeah, looks like we have a fail. Let's see if that works. Wow, that is totally not clean, and I wouldn't have thought that that would be a difficult fillet to do. Let's get rid of this stuff and try again. Fillet 0.5, right? Smaller fillets always tend to be stronger. No, it broke. And xDesign has a pretty strong fillet feature to it. Like it surprised me how strong the fillets are, so maybe I'll set this as 1 and make these separate fillets and see how that goes. Alright, so that looks like it's happy, and that looks like it broke. So let's try another fillet. Yep, that's totally a broken fillet. Oh, no, okay, that worked. It just had a weird preview to it, and it seemed to break last time. Alright, so at least we have a degree of smoothness now. But it would be a lot cooler to make it look like this, where you have this sort of organic, curvy spoke. Alright, let's go with here. We'll do a mirror now. And the features that I want to mirror are my loft. Oh, I have to select my mirror plane, of course. Here, we'll select, actually I can start off with my extrude here. And it already failed. Let's try feature mirror. That's better. Let's go with loft. And it added the loft in, but I don't see my loft. Okay. And geometry doesn't work, so feature, maybe if I loft them as separate items. I really wasn't expecting to have this error. I was expecting to have some loft problems, but what's going on here? Let's do a separate mirror, see if they can mirror separate bodies. We're going to go, maybe if I select from the GUI and choose feature mirror, it won't make the pattern. I was not expecting to get stuck on this. Okay, well, in the interest of time, in my opinion, this is not very good form. And this wouldn't work if I had other geometries, but I guess, the way that I made this, I can do a circular pattern. And this time I'm going to go with, well, first I have to do a mirror, right? I'm getting ahead of myself, so let's select a mirror plane here. We're going to select this body and mirror it as a body. And I really, truly think that that's a terrible way to do it, but okay, I had two body features in there. Alright, in the interest of time, I don't think this is good form, and this wouldn't work if I had other features in here, but I guess it'll work for this time because I'm kind of stumped as of right now. Let's select the mirror plane, let's select this body to mirror, and mirror the thing as a body. I don't like it, I don't think it's good form, but there we are. Then I can do a circular pattern, and we're going to do a body again and just revolve this in itself because I kind of have to at this point. So I have to select an axis. That face will make a good axis, and we're going to say 5 features. I'm looking at 4, but I have the number 5 right here, so let's see what happens. It gave me 4. Let's try that again. Oh, that's because I need pattern, angle. That's right. And then, there we go. Alright, so we have 5 features, and we're looking at 5 spokes. That's way better. So we have that. Not a bad looking wheel. And we have these things, which I want to deal with because we're also going to have a comparison with delete face and a few other features. Let's go to SolidWorks now, and let's do the same thing, right? Let's do a mirror. We're going to choose, and bear in mind I'm a lot more experienced with SolidWorks with all this, so it's quite possible that there's easy solutions to some of the problems that I've had so far and I just don't know them. But it should be more obvious because I've picked up other platforms way faster than this. If xDesign does have the ability to do what I'm looking for. Let's do a circular pattern, and we want to choose this direction. Oops, this direction here, and then I want these features here, and my mirror, and let's go with 5 features, right? So that's our wheel. I think that looks way cooler than the xDesign one with the curvature. But there we are. Next, let's go with making our revolve for our wheel. And I might as well start off doing this in SolidWorks, right? We're going to sketch here, Control 8 to get normal to the plane. Alright, so I'm in my sketch. Let's go with just drawing a profile. There we go. I want to add a few things straight up front. I know I want these to be vertical. I know that I want these to be equal. And I can add a few dimensions that I think are going to be pretty obvious. Let's go with 19 divided by 2, right? We want a 19-inch wheel. We want this to be negative 0.35, right? That's a little lip to catch the bead. And then I know I want a width of 9 inches for my wheel, right? 19 by 9. I have no idea if that's standard because I don't normally shop for 19-inch wheels, but there we go. Let's go with a dimension here of 3.25. I want a dimension here of, say, 2.5, 2.5. I can add some angles. I know I want here to have 130. And I know I want this edge to be, say, 2 inches away. And let's give this an angle of 150. And we're almost fully constrained, right? We're real close. We just gotta give a distance to this guy, and let's make that a pretty easy, pretty simple, there we go. Pretty easy, pretty simple 1 inch. Alright, let's do an offset now. We'll offset our sketch. That's exactly what I want. Let's go with 0.125, right? 1/8 inch thick. I have no idea if that's standard for wheels because I'm not an actual vested wheel designer. I'm just making something to show the user interface, proof of concept kind of thing. There we go. Shaded. SolidWorks, you always have to draw your axes. And we're going to say features, extruded boss. Right, so there we have the next step of our wheel. Not bad. But we have some extras left over, and how we deal with these extras is going to be a little bit different between SolidWorks and xDesign. So let's jump into xDesign. There's my wheel. Let's grab this thing and go with sketch, and let's make the same profile. So those are at least the same elements. We're going to grab a dimension and stick it here. We know we want to go 9 inches. We know we want this to be okay, we know we want this to be really give me the origin. There we go. We know we want this to be 19 divided by 2. And I know that I want that to be negative 0.35. I guess that's a learning. xDesign doesn't do negative dimensions. I'm just going to drag this here. we'll add what we had before, vertical. And equal. And now I can add some of my remaining dimensions. I know that I want this to be 0.35. Let's go with 3.25 here. I want a 150-degree angle. And I know that I want this edge to be 2 inches away from my mounting plate. Move this over here, and I want this to be 1 inch. And I want a 130-degree angle. I want this distance to be 2.5. And now we're fully defined, but we'll do an offset. And offset works the same way. We've selected the chain. For some reason, that is on the opposite side than I want, so maybe a negative will work here, right? Negative 1.25. And it does, except I want negative 0.125. And all I have to do is close this off. Now we have a shaded region indicating we've closed our sketch. Let's go with Features, Revolve, and I might have to draw my axis in like SolidWorks, except maybe this round face will work. There we go. So we've done our revolve, and we have some leftovers here. So this is a contrast that I want to make with this and SolidWorks, right? So one way of doing this is I can do a delete face, and it may be worth mentioning that in SolidWorks you go with delete face, you select patch and fill, and then you select your faces you wish to remove, just like this. And let me make sure that I've done my revolve right. Some of the shading on those faces just aroused my suspicion that they might not be merged. Yes, we do have an added solid, so that's what I was expecting. So if I go to delete face here, so far so good. It's interesting because before I had all these faces highlighted and it was coming down the spoke. Now they seem to be acting a little bit more predictably. So if I accept that, then we just make the whole part a hollow surface basically, and that's not what we want. So it's more like the traditional delete face in SolidWorks here. So instead of that, I'm going to get rid of all my faces. We're going to go with replace face, and I actually want to replace, all these faces. And I want to replace them with these two faces. So we process, and we have an error. I'm going to tell you right now, this worked on my other model, so I don't actually know what this error is, right? This should be pretty simple. And I want to tell you, this did work, and I have no idea why this isn't working now. So I guess sometimes you can replace face using this method, because it totally worked in my other model, but I guess it didn't work here. Okay. So that, I guess, is sometimes an option, perhaps. Another strategy that you might think to do, and I couldn't get this one to work either, is a Boolean. Right, so if we try doing a combine, this is like intersect. And so if I revolve this as an unmerged solid, I can do some sort of combine thing, but it just didn't have the power to do this. So I guess between these two things, since the one thing that I was going to do that I thought was going to work didn't, I'm left to, I guess, sketch on the same plane as sketch 7, because I got to finish this up here. And let's do a convert entities on sketch 7. I'm going to give this a dimension. Let's go huge, right? Like 8. And I can show my revolve again. All right, so here's my solid, here's my sketch. We're going to do a revolved cut. with this face. I always think it's there. I can just select the shaded region, right? Alright, so there's our Revolved Cut. So that's our wheel so far. Let's contrast that to what I know I can do in SolidWorks. Let's go with, first off, intersect is the Boolean that I was going to try. And all I have to do is make sure that these are not merged. And here I can do an intersect, which is way more powerful. I select my solids, select intersect, and then I just simply click to delete these. Now it's worth noting that you can have some Face ID errors if you're not careful updating, but that is one quick, easy way to get rid of those. Right? And then let's delete that intersect. And then I can go back to my revolve and make sure that I'm merged back into a single solid. The other way that I can do is surfaces, delete face, and bam, 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 right? I just kind of rapid fire start selecting faces to delete. This isn't as quick as intersect, but I really like the workflow. I think you're a little bit less likely to trip an error selecting faces this way. A revolved cut can also trip an error, but possibly in a different way, because a delete face would trip an error probably if you change your geometry such that you're selecting a different number of faces to delete, whereas a cut revolve would trip an error when you make the sketch impossible through updating. So it kind of depends on your design intent which one would actually trip an error. But I select all my faces and they're gone, right? And I also have the Revolve Cut option that I just did in xDesign as well. I can just do that in SolidWorks and make an edge and everything. So there we have that. And one of the cool things that you can do in SolidWorks that you really can't do in xDesign nearly as well is give it an appearance. And it doesn't really buy you anything other than just kind of a nice wow factor. But you can turn on real view graphics and get kind of a nice realistic looking metallic wheel. And I even asked the technical salespeople who sold me my xDesign seat if it gets any better than this, and it apparently doesn't. So this is as good as it gets for xDesign. Next, why don't we jump into perhaps let's make some lug nuts. I'm going to select this face and create a sketch. Now for this kind of stuff that I'm about to do, right, xDesign is simple, it's straightforward, it's as good as SolidWorks. It's when I'm trying to do different stuff like Loft, delete face, it seems to just not be as powerful as SolidWorks, or if there's a way to do something that I've missed, it is not obvious. 4.5, even when I read through the documentation, it's just not very apparent to me. Some of the stuff that I want to do that I can't. So we're going to make that vertical, and we're going to make this coincident. Let's give this a diameter of 1 inch. And we're going to say features. Oh, let's do an extrude cut. And let's go through all one way. And that's the cut that I wish to make, right? So we're going to do that. Sketch on this face again. I'm going to make a different one. Maybe there's some cool hole wizard feature or something that's a little bit quicker than this. We'll go with concentric. And we'll give this a dimension of, say, 0.5 now, right? So that'd be where our stud comes through. Features, extrude through all both. You can do through all one way too, because you only need to cut in one direction. So flip the direction, and there we go. Oh, but I think I did a boss. Let's go back and change that to a cut. Much better. Right, so just basic stuff xDesign is great for. we're going to select this extrude and that extrude, and we'll go an axis here, and we're going to make that 5 features at a pattern angle. I always seem to miss that pattern angle. And there we have it, right? And so this is where I would be tempted to do like a delete face or something. In fact, maybe this would be a good case study if replace face works on here. So I'd love to say select a face to replace and select the replacement face. And maybe I'm doing that backwards. Let's see. Nope. So it did work there. Let's see, because you saw me in SolidWorks do a delete face, everything all in one go, right? So let's edit this and see if I can do some more features all in one. Yep. That certainly took long enough, but it worked. Let's go with here, and I'm going to go all the way around, and it looks like there's a lot of latency. I click on the face and nothing. There we go. That is a lot of latency for clicking on a face versus having it show up, and it kind of adds a little bit of uncertainty to if I'm doing it right, but so far so good. Man, this is taking a long time. Come on, show up. I clicked those faces. There we go. They finally showed up. That's a lot of latency. Okay, well, it's still going. So I guess I'm just going to open up SolidWorks and do what I just did here. Sketch. There we go. How about I make that there and I just make that coincident right off. Let's go with Control 8. Let's go make that for construction, and we're going to go 4.5. I know that's a common size for 4 lugs. I have to imagine it's a pretty common size for 5 lugs as well. Let's make this have a vertical constraint, and we wanted 1 inch here. Except, you know what? I'm upside down. I made my view upside down, I think, because I wanted to add my circle here. That makes way more sense. So we'll make that vertical and 1 inch extruded cut through all. And we want to go the other way. Ah, crap. There we go. Let's select this face and sketch. I want to check back on xDesign. Yep, so that went through. We're going to make that concentric. We'll give that 0.5. We're going to say extruded cut through all. We're going to go with a circular pattern. We're going to go with direction and this feature. Great. Now I can go with surfaces, delete face, and I have to say I really enjoy not having latency when I select a face. Right, so you can use delete face there. You can do an extruded cut. It depends on what workflow you want and a few other things. So there's my wheel. I think I've hit the main points, so let's test out chamfer and see if there's any differences there. Right, so I have here and here, and so there we have that. It's kind of a weird thing. Let's try, would half an inch be too big? I think it'll work. Great, so there's half an inch there. Let's go with a fillet now. I know I'm just gonna fillet this the way that I see fit, and you don't have to sit here and watch me do it. Okay, I think I'm going to stop here. So this is the wheel as far as SolidWorks goes. You can download this from my GrabCAD. The link should be in the description, or you can remind me to put it there. So here is the wheel here. Let's jump on over to xDesign and see how it handles the fillets. I'm not worried about this because xDesign does have good fillets. So this is interesting though, because I haven't done chamfers and anything very much, and I just tried, and like in SolidWorks, you know, you click, you chamfer, it works, and no problems, right? So whereas in SolidWorks I can just click from edge to edge, looks like I clicked this second edge, and it's just not working. So that is kind of a find. I have to get rid of this edge. Maybe if I click some in, you know, like directions. If I try this one, yep, it breaks. So I did not know that. That's a huge limitation, actually. I don't like it. So I would suggest that that gets updated. Anyway, I'm going to keep going here. Well, this is strange because I was able to fillet all these edges, but I come here and the exact same edge that was just, you know, it just won't fillet. So I'm not sure what's going on there. Maybe it's related to the fact that I had to pattern this as a body, so I'm getting some really weird edges. It's a lot more difficult than I thought. So I think SolidWorks takes the crown over xDesign for fillets, because, you know, if I try to add a fillet on that edge, or, oh, I guess that does work, but other edges will not. But there you have it, right? Two wheels. I guess we got a straight spoke and a curved spoke. So this is again SolidWorks versus xDesign. I hope this video was helpful. If it was, please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.